Good afternoon, distinguished delegates. I now declare open the 823rd meeting of the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. Distinguished delegates, this afternoon we will continue our consideration of Agenda Item 5, General Exchange of Views. Is there any delegate that would like to have the floor? I see no one, so we will continue and hopefully conclude our consideration of Agenda Item 8, Report of the Legal Subcommittee on its 63rd session. After the consideration of the plenary items this afternoon, we will then suspend the plenary meeting so that the working group on the long-term sustainability of outer space activities can hold its second meeting. We will then resume the plenary with the view to proceeding with the technical presentations. There are 6 technical presentations scheduled for this afternoon. Delegates are reminded that the full schedule of technical presentation is available on the session's web page. Are there any questions or comments on this proposed schedule? I see none. We shall therefore continue our consideration of Agenda Item 5, General Exchange of Views, on Monday morning. Distinguished delegates, I would like now to continue and conclude our consideration of Agenda Item 8, Report of the Legal Subcommittee on its 63rd session. The first speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of Italy.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Chair, distinguished delegates, while congratulating the Chair of the Legal Subcommittee, Italy deeply regrets that consensus could not be reached to adopt the final report of the Legal Subcommittee on its 63rd session, resulting in only a procedural report. At the same time, we acknowledge that the report of the Chair of the Working Group on the status and application of the 5 United Nations treaties on outer space and the report of the Chair and Vice Chair of a Working Group on legal aspects of space resource activities were endorsed by the subcommittee, and therefore we look forward to the adoption of those reports by the committee. Our regret mainly depends on our high regard for the Legal Subcommittee as the pivotal body for promoting and strengthening the international legal framework governing outer space activities and international cooperation in this domain. We consider that the results achieved by the subcommittee during its last session deserve full appreciation. Italy firmly believes in the vast potential of space resources utilization for the future of humankind. International cooperation and multi-stakeholder dialogue are crucial for creating a beneficial environment for space resource activities. Our countries has actively supported initiatives aimed at laying the groundwork for international discussions on developing of an international framework without bias to its form and structure. We have been guided by the principle of adaptive governance and always considered that space resource activities should be incrementally addressed based on contemporary technologies and practice. We also consider very positively the results of the discussions on the working group on the status and application of the 5 United Nations treaties on outer space and ways and means, including capacity building, to promote their implementation. We support, in this regard, the proposals made by the Chair and others on the implementation of Article 11 of Outer Space Treaty through a dedicated mechanism. Mr. Chair, Italy wishes to take this opportunity to also reaffirm the importance of major items of the agenda of the legal subcommittee and our support to see them included again next year. Furthermore, we reiterate our commitment and support to the traditional practice of the subcommittee in inviting the International Institute of Space Law and the European Centre for Space Law to organize a symposium on capacity building in the field of space law at the beginning of the session on Monday afternoon. Finally, Mr. Chair, we took note that since 2016, the Legal Subcommittee has considered the agenda item General Exchange of View on legal aspects of space traffic management. In this regard, we support the proposal made by the German delegation for study group within the subcommittee on perspective for space traffic management. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I thank the distinguished representative of Italy for her statement. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of Singapore, Mr. Tong.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, distinguished delegates, Singapore thanks the Secretariat for the organization of the 63rd session of the Legal Subcommittee, and the Chair, Santiago Ripoll Carulla of Spain, for his leadership. The LSE session was an important opportunity to foster dialogue and international cooperation on legal issues related to the peaceful use and exploration of outer space. We are therefore disappointed that the LSE was unsuccessful for the first time in reaching an agreement on a substantive report. Despite this missed opportunity, Singapore continues to strongly support the United Nations efforts through COPUOS to facilitate discussions to promote an open, inclusive, and rules-based approach to the responsible use of space by all. As an emerging space player, Singapore places importance on developing a domestic regulatory framework to promote compliance with international law. As a first step, we recently published a set of guidelines for local entities on space safety, sustainability, and space object registration. These guidelines also encourage local entities to work with Singapore's National Space Office, also known as the Office for Space Technology and Industry, Austin, which supports the growth of Singapore's space ecosystem. We will continue to develop our domestic regulatory framework by learning from the experiences and best practices of other member states, including through our participation in the third phase of the National Space Legislation Initiative hosted under the Asia-Pacific Regional Space Agency Forum, also known as APRCF NSLI. We also commend UNUSA for organizing capacity building initiatives on space law, which are immensely helpful for emerging space players. The international community must work together to preserve outer space as a peaceful global commons for the collective benefit of humankind. Singapore will continue to participate actively at regional and international fora and initiatives that share best practices and promote useful collaboration. In this regard, Singapore will host the 34th session of the ASEAN Subcommittee for Space Technology and Applications, also known as SCOSA, and we will organize a space policy exchange this year, which will provide an opportunity for space policy practitioners from ASEAN member states to discuss pertinent policy issues and share best practices on space policy. As a member of the Artemis Accords, Singapore supports the peaceful and safe exploration of space. We welcome continued discussions at the Legal Subcommittee and COPUOS on exploration, exploitation, extraction, and utilization of space resources, including through the Working Group on the Legal Aspects of Space Resource Activities. Chair, Singapore remains committed to supporting cooperative mechanisms at the UN and other regional and international fora to promote the peaceful, responsible, and sustainable use of outer space by all. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Singapore for his statement. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of United Kingdom, Mr. Stoker.
Thank you, Chair, distinguished delegates. The United Kingdom would like to extend its thanks to COPUOS delegates who contributed to the discussions and debate at this year's Legal Subcommittee. We would also like to thank UNUSA for organising and facilitating the event, as well as the new chair of the LSC, Santiago Ripoll Carula, for their hard work in presiding over the session. Chair. The UK would like to express our disappointment at that the LSC could not reach consensus on a substantial report this year. It is vital that the subcommittee can take forward actions agreed at its meetings and keep pace with the ever-increasing activities in space. The UK remains committed to working constructively with all member states to reach consensus on relevant issues and urges all members to show flexibility in report discussions. We would also like to thank the COPUOS Chair and UNUSA for your efforts in ensuring we can progress with the important work of the subcommittee. The UK would support a process where COPUOS states can develop and agree non-binding guidelines for procedural methods of work at COPUOS to help prevent the procedural disagreements that took place during the report stage at LSC. Following the adoption of the procedural report in June, the UK would like to take this opportunity to reflect on the important progress which we made in the areas of the subcommittee's agenda. Chair. The UK was pleased to take part in the Working Group on Space Resources discussions. The UK would once again commend the efforts and expertise of the Working Group Chair, Andrei Mitstal, and the Vice Chair, Stephen Freeland, who have done so much to progress the work of the Working Group. We would like to express our thanks to the chairs for their efforts in organising the extremely insightful expert event and international conference in Luxembourg and Vienna, alongside Luxembourg and Belgium for their efforts in facilitating the expert event. The United Kingdom was pleased to see the working group discuss how it can make progress on agreeing and recommending principles for the space resources with the process outlined by the Chair and Vice Chair at the LSC. Chair, the UK was also pleased to continue to engage in the work of the working group of the 5 UN treaties and would like to express our gratitude to the Chair, Franziska Noor, for their able leadership of the working group. The UK was particularly pleased to see the working group discuss the development of a voluntary Article 11 template for submission of information to the Secretary-General regarding Member States' activities in space. The UK sees this work as vitally important, fostering greater information sharing on space activities, which is paramount to ensuring a sustainable space environment. The United Kingdom hopes the committee can agree the reports for both the working group of the 5 treaties and space resources at this session, with them reaching consensus at the LSC to enable time-sensitive work in their work plans. Chair, the UK recognises the central role that registration of space objects plays in so many aspects of space policy and space activities. This is why the UK initiated its project with UNUSA on the registration of space objects in 2022. The UK would also like to thank all those who participated in our side event regarding the outcomes of the first phase of this project, which took place during LSC. Finally, Chair, the UK welcomes the views of all members at COPUOS and recognises the important contributions from international, intergovernmental and non-governmental organisations, alongside the private sector, who can provide valuable insights on the topics that we discuss here across the subcommittee and in this plenary event. Thank you for your kind attention.
I thank the distinguished representative of United Kingdom for his statement. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of Saudi Arabia, Mrs. Nora Al-Sanai. You have the floor.
سعادة الرئيس الوفود
Mr. Chair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, may the peace and blessings of God be upon you. Saudi Arabia would like to thank the chair of the legal subcommittee, Mr. Santiago Ripoll Carula, for leading the committee towards adopting a report on the 63rd session, which shall contribute to promoting international space law and our interests. Mr. Chair, Saudi Arabia is pleased to announce that we have made tremendous progress in the area of national space governance. The Kingdom established the Supreme Space Council, which is a new era in our space journey. This strategic step showcases our commitment to playing a pioneering role at the global space community. The Council comprises different ministerial entities. Its functions include adopting national space policies and strategies and addressing relevant issues to ensure that we achieve our goals in the space sector. In another step to promote space governance, we have entrusted the Communications, Space and Technology Commission with regulatory and oversight functions in the area of civilian space activities to promote regulatory frameworks and to ensure the participation of the private sector. The Saudi Space Agency is another pillar in our strategic goals in the space sector. The agency is entrusted with launching national space initiatives to build our capacities and meet our aspirations. We are also proud of our human capital initiatives. To this day, we have reached more than 1,300 students through our awareness-raising programs. We have received more than 13,000 applications from students to participate in the Space Olympics. We have also provided technical training to more than 550 students. Ladies and gentlemen, in the area of regulatory excellence, the Kingdom is seeking to create a comprehensive regulatory framework, including in the areas of adopting guidelines for the operation and registration of space objects, the launch of orbital and suborbital flights, as well as uncrewed flights, and ensuring the sustainability of space activities. This is in line with international treaties and our national interests. We stress the need for national policies to ensure the sustainability of space and the participation of the private sector. Ladies and gentlemen, as we address the complexities of outer space, the Kingdom remains committed to the peaceful uses of outer space. The Kingdom continues to cooperate with international organizations to promote the global space governance on the basis of cooperation, peace, and sustainability. We will continue to believe in the need to share this responsibility with member states so that outer space remains a domain for peaceful exploration and use for the benefit of all. In closing, the Kingdom is committed to promoting the principles of international space law and to contributing constructively to all discussions and initiatives within this committee. We look forward to cooperating with all member states and international partners to ensure the peaceful, safe, and sustainable use of outer space. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I thank the distinguished representative of Saudi Arabia for her statement. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of Japan, Mr. Nobuyuki Kikuchi.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished delegates. Japan appreciates Mr. Santiago Ripoll Carrera for his excellent work and dedication, which enabled us to have a fruitful session of the Legal Subcommittee in April. On the other hand, it was deplorable that we could not reach a consensus on the report of the LSC. We sincerely hope that this will not repeat or undermine Vienna spirit. The Legal Subcommittee provides a unique platform with its open and broad membership and expertise to discuss various legal aspects of peaceful exploration and use of outer space. Thus, Japan has been actively engaged in discussion in the subcommittee. Japan repeatedly emphasized the importance of strengthening the rule of law in outer space to ensure the safety, sustainability, and stability of outer space activities. During 62nd Legal Subcommittee in April, Japan in particular took the issue of space debris. Space debris is a serious problem that should be addressed through international efforts. Japan submitted a non-paper titled Japan's View on the Way Forward to Advancing the Discussion on Possible Normative Mechanisms on Space Debris Mitigation and Remediation Measures under the framework of the Committee of the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. In this paper, we call for the need to accelerate discussions on the issues related to mitigation and remediation, including active debris removal, ADR, under the framework of the COPUOS. We organized with Argentina and Germany an informal consultation exploring views on other states on this issue. Mr. Mitsunobu Okada, CEO of Astroscale, delivered the technical presentation on this issue at the LSC, as well as at this session of the COPUOS this morning. We advocated to accelerate our discussion on holistic approach to address these space debris issues with view to promoting mitigation and remediation. Chair, these important works of the subcommittee must not be just words on papers, but must be implemented. The effective way to make such norm settings function is, we believe, that each country is engaged in space activities should develop national legislations that are consistent with international space law. Japan is ready to work together. First, I'd like to bring into attention the National Space Legislation Initiative, or NSLI, that Japan hosts under the Asia-Pacific Regional Space Agency Forum, or APRSAF. The NSLI promotes information sharing and mutual learning on, as well as helps drafting and implementation of the national legislation and policies in participating countries. So far, participating countries, including Japan, submitted 2 joint reports in 2021 and 2023 on the status of their national space legislation and the implementation of the LTS guidelines. We have just launched the 3rd phase of NSLI with 3 new topics of space economy, space resources, and the Artemis Accords. Second, UN USA's Space Law for New Space Actors project. Since 2021, Japan has been providing financial and technical contributions to this project. This project aims to building the capacity of Asia and Pacific countries in establishing national space legislation. Japan hosted a regional technical advisory mission in Tokyo in January 2024 with the topic of national authorization and continuing supervision. We are extremely grateful that more than 20 participants from Bhutan, Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Mongolia, the Philippines, and Thailand attended the event. We work on the next project with the Philippines and Thailand. We continue our endeavors. Chair, we are not just working with partners, but we ourselves are accumulating our own efforts in our domestic actions. In 2021, Japan enacted its Space Resources Act. The Act defines an entity's legal obligations when applying for a license to conduct exploration and development of space resources, as well as the acquisition of ownership. Under this Act, Japan issued its first license to a private entity in November 2022 and publicized its business activity plan on the website of the Cabinet Office of Japan. During the last legal subcommittee, Japan provided an overview of this Space Resources Act and efforts for information sharing in the working group on legal aspects of space resources. In this regard, Japan appreciates Chair Mr. Mistal and its Vice Chair, Mr. Finland, for their work. We assure our continued commitment to the work of legal subcommittee. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Japan for his statement. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of the United States, Mrs. Emily Pierce. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The debate at the 63rd session of the Legal Subcommittee reflected that international law remains a vital tool for facilitating the growth of safe, sustainable, and transparent activities in outer space. The exploration and use of outer space for peaceful purposes by states, international organizations, and private entities thrives under the legal framework of the four core and widely accepted treaties on outer space, which include the Outer Space Treaty, Rescue and Return Agreement, Liability Convention, and Registration Convention. Meeting our international obligations to authorize and supervise the activities of non-governmental U.S. actors in outer space remains fundamental. That's why we were pleased to update the legal subcommittee on the United States Novel Space Activities Authorization and Supervision Framework released by the National Space Council in December of 2023. This framework outlines several actions the U.S. government is working to implement so that our regulatory regime is even more capable of growing and evolving in response to technological advancements and increasingly complex missions without hindering innovation. We were also pleased to share information in technical presentations about the Federal Communications Commission's recent regulatory enforcement efforts related to space debris and the Department of Commerce's vision for global space situational awareness coordination released on April 8th. While we are making important progress domestically, many of the contemporary challenges spacefaring states face cannot or should not be met alone. International cooperation, and specifically the multilateral work of the legal subcommittee, continues to be critical to further our understanding regarding the application of international law to current and future space exploration and other activities. The United States recognizes the efforts of Santiago Ripoll Carula of Spain in chairing the subcommittee, as well as those of the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs for its support in facilitating this work. Specifically, the Working Group on Legal Aspects of Space Resource Activities held a successful conference during the session to collect information from stakeholders about the legal framework and information sharing relevant to space resource activities. These inputs, together with inputs that were collected at the preparatory expert meeting co-hosted by Luxembourg and Belgium in March of 2023, should be considered by the working group in the development of an initial set of recommended principles for space resource activities. The presentations made at these two events demonstrate that the working group should focus its efforts on the practical issues facing humanity in these early days of exploring the resources available in the solar system. The working group usefully decided upon an informal timeline for advancing its work for the next year, and we encourage all committee members to share or update their views through written contributions to the working group. We also appreciate the steady leadership of Ambassador Andrzej Misztal of Poland and Stephen Freeland of Australia. In addition, the working group on the status and application of the United Nations treaties on outer space, ably chaired by Franziska Noor of Germany, engaged in a fruitful exchange of views on the implementation of Article 11 of the Outer Space Treaty and information sharing related to space activities. During the discussion, the United States and other Artemis Accord signatories shared that in October of 2023, signatories announced their intent to provide certain lunar mission data parameters to the United Nations consistent with our obligations under Article 11. We also shared that the United States followed this coordinated approach when submitting information to UNUSA on April 8th for scientific payloads that were carried on commercial spacecraft earlier this year under the NASA Commercial Lunar Payload Services Project. We are looking forward to continuing the Article 11 dialogue, including in relation to possible voluntary tools to assist states parties in its implementation in 2025. Chair, it is important to note our great disappointment that the subcommittee could not reach consensus on a report reflecting the substantively rich and constructive debate during the 63rd session. Meeting reports should continue to be accurate and fair representations of the formal debate held during the session, and it is critical that we not give in to attempts to rewrite history. We thank the Secretariat for preparing the procedural report that was adopted on the basis that it would not serve as a precedent for future subcommittee reports, as well as for their support of the chair and of this committee in ensuring the continuity of the legal subcommittee's work, including its working groups. Thank you, Chair.
I thank the distinguished representative of USA for her statement. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of China, Mr. Guo Haibo.
Thank you, Chair. The Chinese delegation would like to thank Mr. Santiago Ripoll Corilla, Chair of the LSC, and the Secretariat for their hard work in making the LSC session a success. China supports the statement made by the distinguished delegate of Colombia on behalf of Group 77 China. Chair, the 1967 Outer Space Treaty is the cornerstone of outer space law, and its interpretation and application are in the interest of all party states. The role of COPUOS as the main platform for international space governance should be fully utilized, and the proper interpretation and applications of the Outer Space Treaty should address the new issues raised by the practice of outer space. Article 11 of the Outer Space Treaty advocates information sharing among states parties on outer space activities, which is an important guarantee of the safety and long-term sustainability of outer space activities. China welcomes the discussions of the working group on the 5 treaties implementations of that article and looks forward to deepening the awareness and understanding of all parties of the relevant provisions through the discussions, so as to promote the implementation of the Outer Space Treaty. China welcomes the planned work of the working group on space resources. China believes that the basic principles set out in the Outer Space Treaty, including but not limited to peaceful use, the benefit and interests of all humankind, non-appropriation, international cooperation, due regard and compliance with international law, including the Charter of the UN, should be applied to space resource activities. The working group should develop initial building blocks that focus on the interpretation and application of space law based on existing space law. The principle of non-appropriation should be concretized in the context of space resource activities. Space resource activities for the purpose of scientific investigation should be avoided from undue commercial influence. Coordination should be strengthened, and the principle of mutual assistance should be implemented in order to ensure that space resource activities are carried out in a safe and orderly manner. The regulation of space resource activities of non-governmental entities should be strengthened in order to ensure that the obligations of Outer Space Treaty are effectively implemented, and the full consideration should be given to the sustainability of the resources and to the achievements of the intergeneration equity. Chair, issues relating to the safety of space activities such as space traffic management and space debris have attracted much attention. The existing outer space law provides basic norms for addressing these issues, and the space debris mitigation guidelines and the guidelines for the long-term sustainability outer space activities are of great value in appropriately addressing these issues. China looks forward to giving full play to the roles of COPUOS and the legal subcommittee, strengthening information sharing and international cooperation, and promoting the long-term sustainability of outer space activities, while at the same time safeguarding the rights of all countries to safe, equal, and free access to outer space. China notes that the LSC was unable to adopt its final report this year, but at the same time, all parties reached a consensus on most of the contents of the report of the committee during the session. China supports reflecting the progress of the relevant work in the report of the COPUOS plenary session. We also hope that all parties will uphold the Vienna spirit, focus on their main responsibilities and main lines of business, and maintain COPUOS as the platform for win-win cooperation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank the distinguished representative of China for his statement. Xie. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of France, Monsieur Pierre Pellerin. Vous avez la parole.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Chair. Delegates, I would like to briefly take the floor on this item. First, France would like to welcome progress made during the 61st session of the Legal Subcommittee. In particular, we thank Professor Santiago Ripoll from Spain for steering the work. It's unfortunate that the productive work of the subcommittee was not reflected in a report, as is customary for the work of the committee as a whole and then the subcommittees. We thank the Secretariat for the procedural report in its last version. It's fine as it is, but this practice should certainly not be a precedent in the work of the committee and its bodies. Finally, my delegation would also like to recall its commitment to all delegations upholding the rules and methods of work that are established and a key condition for the effectiveness and inclusive nature of the debates on the committee, the subcommittees, and the working groups. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of France for his statement. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of Finland, Mr. Otto Karhonen. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Finland expresses its gratitude to the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs for the organization of this year's session of the Legal Subcommittee. We also thank the Chair, Mr. Santiago Ripoll Carulla, for his leadership during the session. Mr. Chair, distinguished delegates, Finland recognizes the vital role of the Legal Subcommittee as it provides the multilateral forum for the exchange of views of legal aspects of outer space activities. We find it valuable when such exchanges are reflected in the reports of the subcommittee meetings. Consequently, we consider it regrettable that this year the subcommittee was not able to reach consensus on the final report during its session. We still wish to thank the Secretariat for their work for the preparations of the report and the delegations that aimed at reaching a common understanding on the texts thereof. We also commend the efforts made for the agreement on the procedural report. The annotated time for the subcommittee meeting was exhausted while the paragraph mentioning the Space for Women expert meeting, co-hosted by UNOSA and Canada, was under consideration. Acknowledging such activities of the office in the report should not prevent member states from adopting it. We appreciate that UNOSA works to promote gender equality in the space sector and in STEM fields. As a committed supporter of gender equality, Finland thanks UNOSA for its important work in the course of the Space for Women project, as well as Canada for co-hosting the expert meeting in 2023. Mr. Chair, in any event, we were pleased to see the continued discussions under the subcommittee's agenda and reiterate our thanks to active delegations for the constructive exchange that aimed to find solutions on pressing topics such as space resources, space debris mitigation, and space traffic management. On this note, we welcome the idea presented by the delegation of Germany regarding a STM-related study group to further the discussions on this extremely important matter. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I thank the distinguished representative of Finland for his statement. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of Venezuela, la señora Marglat Bencomo. Tiene la palabra.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Chair. The delegation of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela is grateful to the Secretariat for the efforts they've made for this session and that of the Legal Subcommittee, and to the Chair of the Subcommittee, Santiago Ripoll. And we hope that in future discussions we have understanding and consensus, strengthening the work of this forum regarding the regulation of activities in outer space. We should remember that the legal subcommittee has played a leading role for more than 60 years of space development. That subcommittee started the formal activities of COPUOS and provided the current international legal framework for space. However, we should be concerned here in COPUOS that since the end of the 1970s, since the presentation of the Moon Treaty to the international community for signature and ratification, no progress has been made with regards to binding rules, and that other ways have been sought from a legal perspective, such as principles and resolutions, which do seek to condition the actions of states in outer space. They are not called upon to preserve the peaceful use of outer space. The progress of science and technology means we have to constantly change traditional legal concepts. Therefore, this delegation, over and above considering necessary the review, updating and amendments of UN treaties on outer space, also considers we must create new binding instruments to regulate space activities, taking as a reference the practice and some elements of non-binding instruments, such as measures to reduce space debris, principles on the use of nuclear energy sources in outer space. Our delegation is paying special attention to continuing with the study of the rational and equitable use of the geostationary orbit, a resource which developing countries should have access to, taking into consideration that its rational use contributes to social and educational programs and projects for the development of nations, and which require a legal system that will promote equitable access to orbital positions, granting special attention to satellite projects for social purposes, bearing in mind the function of the ITU. Regarding national legislations for the peaceful use of outer space, this delegation believes that all states should have national legislation on the subject linked to international treaties and the peaceful uses of outer space. Therefore, there should not be any rules associated to the commercialization of outer space currently being discussed in the subcommittee. This is the heritage of humanity and belongs to all states in equal conditions. Chair, we applaud the hard work of the working group on the legal aspects of activities related to space resources established with regards to that subject on the program of the legal subcommittee on possible legal rules on the activities of exploring, exploiting and using space resources. The efforts to make progress within the mandate of the group are tangible, and we assure that discussions will be highly productive. We would like to take this opportunity to reaffirm our opinion that the rules arising from that working group should be binding in order to guarantee the preservation of outer space from damaging methods of exploitation, as well as preserving the Earth's biosphere from space material that could affect the ecosystem. Chair, this delegation believes that the interaction of the legal subcommittee is very closely linked to that of the Scientific and Technical Committee, and it needs the support of the legal subcommittee. This delegation urges states to focus on critical aspects which currently imperil space activities in order to update, amend, and create space legislation which is adapted and suitable to our current historic moment. There's huge responsibility for the legal subcommittee, and we have to continue with this progressive development of international law. Thank you. I thank the distinguished representative of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela for his statement.
The next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of Brazil, Mrs. Marcia Alvarenga dos Santos. Tenga palabra.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. While we were relieved with the adoption of document A/AC.105/13011, we cannot but regret that it was not possible to adopt a full substantive report on the 63rd session of the Legal Subcommittee. We consider it a collective failure on which we should mediate and seek to prevent from happening again in the future. Notwithstanding, Brazil would like to note the relevance of the substantive discussions held during the 63rd session. We would like to highlight in this sense the successful work of the two working groups on status and application of the 5 United Nations treaties on outer space and on legal aspects of space resources activities. Particularly, we stress the importance on the following up on the schedule of activities adopted by the Working Group on Legal Resources. It is essential to move forward on this issue if the group is to fulfill its mandate. We stress that such work should be carried out under the aegis of the principle of outer space as common province of humankind and for the benefit and in interest of all countries. Thank you.
Muito obrigado. I thank the distinguished representative of Brazil for her statement. Now, the next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of Korea, Mr. Yang Yong Cho. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The Republic of Korea would like to first appreciate the Chair of the Subcommittee and the Secretariat for the successful organization of the 63rd session of the Legal Subcommittee. We also wish to take this opportunity to join several states in expressing our support for the proposal from Germany, Japan, and Argentina to establish a study group on space traffic management. This group aligns with the proposal of this committee, which stands for international cooperation in the exploration and use of outer space for peaceful use. As our Korea Aerospace Administration, KOSA, was officially launched in May, we will actively participate in detailed discussions and activities within the group and other international forums. Chair, regarding the potential legal models for the exploration, exploitation, and utilization of space resources, the Republic of Korea believes that space resource activities must be conducted for peaceful purpose and in a safe, sustainable, and transparent manner. This necessitates the establishment of internationally agreed norms and principles governing space resource activities. We believe that such principles should be based on the existing international legal framework, including the Outer Space Treaty. However, as there is no international consensus on space resource activities under the current framework, further discussions are necessary to develop universally acceptable norms for these activities. In this context, the Republic of Korea fully supports the discussion of the working group on legal aspects of space resource activities and has submitted its views on the mandate and proposal of the group. We are also committed to engaging constructively throughout the entire process. In closing, the Republic of Korea would like to emphasize that the Legal Subcommittee is a unique and valuable platform for discussions on legal aspects of the peaceful use of outer space. We look forward to constructive discussions to ensure a collaborative and successful outcome in the future. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Korea for her statement. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of Chile. You have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to express our thanks to UNUSA for the work it does through its training program in space law. Through this program, it promotes understanding, acceptance, and implementation of the UN treaties and principles on outer space. Chile, together with UN-USA, implemented this program through a series of events from 2020 to now. The last meeting was held in October 2023, and we have trained more than 350 people in Chile and our region. Currently, Chile is working with UN-USA to prepare a new version of this technical advisory mission in October this year. This means we can continue with national and regional dissemination of the principles contained in space treaties, contributing to fostering space law capacity and meaning decision makers and agents of change can formulate a new version of our country's space policy, as well as a regulatory framework, and they can also foster space governance. Chilean legislation has incorporated the 5 UN multilateral space treaties, which are now part of our national legislation and have been for more than 50 years. Chile, throughout its history, has subscribed to and ratified bilateral agreements on space cooperation. We would like to keep and increase conversations, initiatives, studies, and expert groups on the subject of dark and quiet skies, because for Chile it is important to maintain the sustainability and conservation of our skies, clean and silent, as a world cultural and natural heritage, and to continue with the development of astronomy for the benefit of all humanity. We'd like to take the opportunity to invite everyone to the event which will take place this session. Chile has made progress in regulatory issues such as Decree Number 1 from the 16th of October 2023 from the Ministry of the Environment. This establishes rules for the emission of artificial light generated by external lighting. We have to protect our skies and keep them clean of light pollution from our cities and economic development centres in our country. This will come into force on the 19th of October this year. In the regulatory sphere, Decree Number 24 from 2022 of the Ministry of Science, Technology, Knowledge and Innovation establishes a Presidential Advisory Committee on Space and the Council on Space Policy and the Space Executive Committee. Currently, our country has established the basis to update its space policy and to create an administrative system which will provide governance in the relevant area. Our national space policy will be focused on promoting satellite and space development in Chile, encouraging peaceful and sustainable use. Moreover, it will promote benefits for current and future generations. During this current COPUOS, we hope to share with you a presentation which will give you greater details on this important process. Thank you. I thank the distinguished representative of Chile for that statement.
Here on my list is the distinguished representative of Indonesia, Mrs. Rungu Prilia Ardes. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Indonesian delegation associates itself with the statement delivered by the permanent representative of Colombia on behalf of Group of 77 and China. We would further like to add the following statement in our national capacity. We would like to express our appreciation to Mr. Santiago Ripoll Carula of Spain for his leadership during the legal subcommittee meeting held this year. My delegation also commends the extensive work of the UNOSA in supporting the subcommittee. Mr. Chair, let me now turn to several issues under this item agenda which my delegation considers to be important. First, on the issue of definition and delimitation of outer space, we underscore once again that the definition and delimitation of outer space is a very important topic to be kept on the agenda of the subcommittee. We also encourage the legal subcommittee of UN COPUOS to continue the discussion on the delimitation of airspace and outer space at the altitude of 110 km above the sea level. The lack of definition and delimitation of outer space will lead to legal uncertainty. Therefore, a boundary between airspace and outer space, which relates to state sovereignty, needs to be clarified in order to reduce the risk of disputes among states. Second, regarding the issue of geostationary orbit, such a domain shall not be subject to national appropriation by means of use, repeated use or occupation, or by any other means, and that its utilization is governed by applicable international law. Furthermore, we reiterate that this orbit needs to be used rationally, efficiently, and economically in conformity with the provision of the international space laws and relevant regulations, so that countries or groups of countries may have equitable access to those orbits and frequencies, taking into account the special needs of the developing countries and the geographical situation of particular countries. Therefore, we are of the view that the utilization of GSO needs to be regulated by a sui generis regime. Third, on the issue of status and application of the 5 United Nations treaties on outer space and ways and means, including capacity building to promote their implementation, Indonesia welcomes the agreement on 5-year work plan for the Working Group on Status and Application of the 5 United Nations treaties for the period of 2025 to 2027. Indonesia supports the use of the questions proposed by the chair of the Working Group on Status and Application of the 5 United Nations treaties as a basis for exchanging views regarding the application of Article 11 of the Outer Space Treaty at the Working Group meeting of the Legal Subcommittee session in 2025. Fourth, on the issue of space resources, Indonesia attaches the importance to have an equal access to space resources, which can be in the form of material and non-material, which are arranged separately based on the principle of space activities to make it easier to reach regulatory agreements by all countries. Equality of access in this case means, inter alia, fairness of opportunity to utilize space resources jointly with other countries or through international collaboration. My government took note of the report of the LSC and looks forward to further discussing the guiding principles that will be presented by the chair and vice of the Working Group on legal aspects of space resources activities. Further, Indonesia believes that the agreed regulatory framework shall be completed before the actual exploration, utilization, and exploitation of space resources are carried out. Fifth, Indonesia also welcomes any efforts to advance the discussions on the issue of space debris, mega-constellation, and space traffic management system. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I thank the distinguished representative of Indonesia for her statement. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Mr. Sharok Shakarian. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to see you presiding over this meeting. I seek your indulgence because actually I prepared my statement, but while I was here, I received news that part of my delegation just got the visa and they are going to come to the meeting. And I would like, through this opportunity, to thank Secretariat as well as Austrian authorities and Austrian embassy in Tehran to provide and coordinate between themselves in order to provide them the visa. And therefore, I would like to wait until my team completely join us, and after that, in order to check with them, and then I deliver my statement next week. If you allow me, in that case, I would like to request you to keep this agenda item open in order to deliver the most thoughtful statement in this August body. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will reopen the agenda item. Follow your request. Thank you. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of Luxembourg, Madame Dovi Matuleviciute. Vous avez la parole.
You have the floor, Luxembourg. Chair, dear delegates, observers, Luxembourg would like to welcome the progress made at the 63rd session of the Legal Subcommittee and thank the Chair Santiago Ripoll Carulla for his commitment. However, we do regret that the report of the Legal Subcommittee was not able to be adopted last April. that report was the fruit of our joint hard work discussing important subjects and finding solutions to the challenges we all face. We welcome the efforts of the Secretariat, and we were able to have a procedural report. We hope, however, that this will not be a precedent. We must now focus our efforts on finding the best result possible for this COPUOS session and show that we can be constructive and work together. Chair, given the absence of a detailed report about the last meeting of the LSC, my delegation would like to say something about this agenda item to recall its position on certain key points of last April's deliberations. Luxembourg is pleased that the work of the Working Group on Space Resources was able to make specific progress. At the last sessions of the Working Group, Luxembourg shared information on its national activities in the legal, technological, research, educational and industrial fields. Our annual Space Resources Week was held from the 25th to the 27th of March, and it meant that space agencies, research institutes, start-ups, and stakeholders from the industry were able to meet. It was organized by the European Space Resources Innovation Centre, the Luxembourg Space Agency, the European Space Agency, and the Luxembourg Institute of Science and Technology. 2024 was the chance to establish priorities, explore new developments to allow humanity to go further in space in a more sustainable way. Next year, it will take place from the 19th to the 21st of March. On the 26th of March 2024, within the framework of the Working Group on the legal aspects of space resources and together with the Space Resources Week 2024, Luxembourg had the honour to jointly host with Belgium the expert meeting organised by UN-USA. The meeting hosted more than 170 participants, both online and in person, from space agencies, industry, governments, NGOs, and the academic and research world, as well as member states as observers. Thanks to all the stakeholders for their involvement and commitment. We welcome the report on the International Conference on Space Resources, including the results of the experts meeting, to gather contributions and to examine the international conference which will be the basis for the future works of the group. In our national capacity, Luxembourg believes that exchanges in the framework of other initiatives such as the Artemis Accords, the Hague International Space Resources Governance Working Group, and the Global Expert Group on Sustainable Lunar Activities of the Moon Village Association will lead to sharing very valuable knowledge and a better technical understanding of key issues, and this will enable the UN to progress in its work. Alongside our aforementioned commitment, Luxembourg submitted several written contributions to the LSC. COP31, together with Belgium, presented a global overview of the experts meeting and the main conclusions. And COP29 on the current status and future priorities of the use of space resources provided by the European Centre of Space Resource Innovation. Luxembourg fully supports the report of the Chair and the Vice Chair of the Working Group on the legal aspects of space resources and its adoption during this COPUOS session, so that the Working Group can continue with its task. We support the decision of the Working Group to gather supplementary contributions on the recommended principles for activities linked to space resources, with a deadline of the 16th of September 2024. Moreover, we support the agreement of the working group, according to which the chair and the vice chair of the working group will prepare a first draft of principles recommended for activities on space resources, which will be shared with member states of the committee at the beginning of January 2025. Chair, Luxembourg would like to thank Madame Franziska Knoll for her work as chair of the working group on the state and application or implementation of the 5 UN space treaties. The working group has a very important mission and is a valuable opportunity to explore the ways to use and develop existing tools. Therefore, we're pleased to see that there has been an initial exchange of views on the implementation of Article 11 of the Space Treaty. Finally, we wish to express our support to the proposal made by Romania to assess coordination mechanisms for moon activities within COPUOS, voluntary cooperation on questions of common interest linked to lunar operations, including an official exchange of information among stakeholders, is of critical importance for current and future activities. Thank you for your attention.
I thank the distinguished representative of Luxembourg for her statement. We will continue our consideration of Agenda Item 8, report of the Legal Subcommittee on its 63rd session next week, to hear a statement by a delegation. Distinguished delegates, I would like to begin now our consideration of Agenda Item 9, Space and Sustainable Development. The first speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of Thailand, Mr. Chivind Nathalang. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, distinguished delegates. Space technology has been developed into a magnificent tool, propelling us towards a brighter and more sustainable future. Thailand has harnessed the space technology and information gathered from satellites to guide our development from fertile fields to clear skies. At the ASEAN regional level, rice is a staple food and also one of our main economic crops. Yet, floods, drought, and climate change threaten its bounty. Hence, ASEAN's nations stand united through a collaborative project between Thailand's Geoinformatics and Space Technology Development Agency, or GISDA, and Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. We leverage Earth observation data to improve rice paddy area statistics and damage assessment. This vital information empowers ASEAN nations to adapt agricultural practices and ensure sustainable rice production in a changing climate. At the sub-regional level, the lower sub-Mekong region pulsates with agricultural potential. With China's support and UNSCAP facilitation, Thailand spearheaded an agricultural monitoring project which empowers the government agencies in Lanchang Mekong sub-region to share data, plan strategically, and project crops yields. Together, we are fostering security through the shared language of geospatial information. At the national level, a digital cultural platform using remote sensing and geoinformatics data targeted in Thailand is in operation. Policymakers and farmers across Thailand can access crucial data on crop classification, health, and yield prediction. This empowers them to make informed decisions, optimize fertilizer use, and access markets efficiently. Moreover, Thailand's Dragonfly mobile application helps even the most remote farmers, offering information on their specific fields. We envision a future where every farmer harnesses the power of space for more prosperous harvest. Mr. Chair, our planet, a tapestry woven from land, sea, and air, transcends borders. Transboundary hate is a growing concern that affects the health of millions. In this fight, Thailand joins hands with the international community. Through the airborne and satellite investigation of Asian air quality, or Asia AQ mission, NASA's aircraft collected vital atmospheric data above Thailand. This data, combined with the observations from Geostationary Environment Monitoring Spectrometer, or GEMS, and Pandora ground instruments supported by the Republic of Korea, will illuminate the path towards cleaner air. We eagerly await the results and stand ready to collaborate further with NASA and researchers worldwide for the well-being of our people and the health of our planet. Thailand firmly believes that open data is the key to unlocking sustainable development goals. Sphere, an open geospatial platform, is a testament to this vision. Packed with data from our THEOS 1 and THEOS 2 satellites, Sphere empowers the public to access essential information and utilize built-in tools to create customized applications that allow public to leverage the data and use spatial tools equipped in the platform to create applications customized for their needs. Mr. Chair, distinguished delegates, COPUOS serves as a vital forum, reminding us that this space is a tool for collective progress. Sharing experiences, data, and knowledge is the cornerstone of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. As we navigate the challenges of our world, let us stand together, not divided by borders, but united by a shared vision. A world where space technology empowers a sustainable future for all. I thank you for your kind attention.
I thank the distinguished representative of Thailand for his statement. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of Pakistan, Mr. Muhammad Yusuf. You have the floor.
Muhammad Iftikhar Bhatti, thank you, Chair. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan believes in maintaining outer space for peaceful uses and acknowledges the right of all member states to develop their capabilities in space system and in a peaceful, sustainable manner. The National Space Policy of Pakistan articulates the strategic application of space technology to advance both national and sustainable development goals. Pakistan is committed to harnessing space science, technology, and its application to address socio-economic challenges comprehensively, thereby contributing to sustainable development and bolstering national security. The space policy underscored the critical role of the space-based data information and serve in fostering economic development and enhancing national security. Advanced applications in communication, remote sensing, and navigations are pivotal in all sectors such as the agriculture, water resource management, forestry, urban development, disaster management. These efforts align with and significantly contribute to the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals. Mr. Chair, Sustainable Development Goals were adopted by all member states in 2015 as a universal call to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. The United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs recommends effective utilization of space technology and its application for sustainable development and socio-economic uplift of the member state. In this regard, Pakistan attaches great importance to the utilization of space-based assets and their application for achieving objectives of SDGs. Pakistan also affirmed its commitment to 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development by adopting the Sustainable Development Goals as its own national development agenda through a unanimous National Assembly resolution in 2016. Pakistan has ratified the Paris Climate Agreement and is a state party to the Shanghai Framework on Disaster Mitigation. Ratification and acceptance of these agreements is an indication of Pakistan's commitment towards the sustainable development. Pakistan also supports the recommendation of the COP28 and their implementation using the space technology. Mr. Chair, Earth observation data and geospatial data, and combining such outcomes with the statistical and demographic data for near real-time analysis of the condition and modeling of the complex and dynamic risk scenarios. Digital space maps and other visualization are particularly useful for supporting the evaluation of impact across all sectors and regions and allowing change over time to be monitored in a more consistent and standardized manner. The result is improved decision, policy, and accountability. Pakistan is making good use of available resources in utilization of space technology and its application for implementing the global sustainable development agenda. Mr. Chair, Pakistan is currently developing the national spatial data infrastructure, which will use extensive GIS database and multi-temporal satellite imagery. The national effort is being spearheaded by the Survey of Pakistan and aided by all the national stakeholders, including SPARCO, the National Space Agency, as well as all the provincial governments. A national GIS would be integrated into the government 5-year development plans, creating a new model for governance and development with an emphasis on inclusive growth, especially to reduce duplication, expedite development, and bring demographic dividends. The national GIS will help support in sustainable development and spatial planning, enable transparent system and near real-time mapping needs across all sectors. Mr. Chair, SPARCO has also completed 2 research projects under the ambient of EBSCO, titled Forest Carbon Stock Assessment using Geospatial Technologies and Mangrove Watch from Space. These projects contribute to UN SDGs 13, 15, and 17. Moreover, SPARCO is undertaking various space awareness initiatives under the UN SDGs 4 to educate people about the utilization of this spatial technology for socioeconomic development. These initiatives include short and customized training for national and international users from government departments, public, private sectors, and academia in the field of remote sensing and GIS. Mr. Chair, one important point to note is that unless the benefits and the potential of the space application are recognized and applied across all important sectors, including planning and financing, they will remain academic activities and will not be incorporated into the country development plans. In this regard, there is a greater need for advocacy about effective use of space applications at all tiers of the governance framework. Pakistan is making effective efforts to increase the indigenous capacities in space technology and its application to assist in socioeconomic development of the country. By and large, Pakistan has made efforts to contribute in the most of the SDGs, and we are constantly making efforts to develop space solutions to all possible areas of SDGs while seeking international partnership and collaboration. I thank you, sir.
I thank the distinguished representative of Pakistan for his statement. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of Canada, Mrs. Sarah Pacey Parker. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, distinguished delegates, Space for Women, an initiative of the UN Office for Outer Space Affairs, seeks to raise awareness about the importance of gender equality and women's empowerment in the space sector. Its work is focused on strengthening and delivering targeted capacity-building activities, both at the institutional and individual levels, encouraging women and girls to pursue space and STEM education and careers, and contributing to the achievement of Sustainable Development Goal 4, quality education, and 5, gender equality. As part of this work, UNUSA co-hosts Space for Women expert meetings. The most recent meeting, co-hosted by Canada, brought together global experts to help prepare the first gender mainstreaming toolkit for the space sector. The Gender Mainstreaming Toolkit offers simple and practical measures that space organizations can adopt to help bring about meaningful improvements for gender equality in the global space community and help organizations overcome challenges faced by women in the space sector. The Gender Mainstreaming Toolkit emphasizes the critical role that quality education plays in advancing gender equality. The space industry is an innovative and rapidly expanding sector. However, it can only achieve its full potential if firms can access the talent they need to generate and advance cutting-edge ideas. There is an opportunity to expand the pool of talent available to space firms by including more women and girls. But first, we need to ensure that women and girls have access to quality education. Most decent jobs in the global space industry require STEM-related skills. Although many countries are investing in STEM fields, women hold only 1 in 5 STEM jobs worldwide. This reflects that women and girls continue to have fewer opportunities to pursue higher education. Though most girls begin primary education, less than half make it to the upper secondary level where STEM skills are solidified. Although statistics now show that women are graduating in STEM programs at faster rates than men, many women are still unable to obtain or advance jobs in STEM fields due to barriers like gender bias and discrimination. Women are underrepresented in leadership, managerial, and technical positions, and these barriers are amplified for marginalized groups of women. Chair, distinguished delegates, the Gender Mainstreaming Toolkit offers practical measures to help women overcome these barriers, and as such, Canada wants to encourage its widespread use. Doing so will help to ensure that the future of the global space sector is more equitable for women of all backgrounds, which means the benefits of space can reach everyone. Finally, we would like to invite you to 2 Sustainable Development Goal-related side events. The first, Space for Women, Where We Are and the Way Forward, a side event organized by UNUSA on 24 June at 13:30 in room M3. And the second, a joint side event co-organized by Austria, Canada, the European Space Agency, and the Office for Outer Space Affairs, to be held at 13:05 on June 27th in room M2. Thank you for your kind attention.
I thank the distinguished representative of Canada for his statement. And now the next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of the Republic of Korea. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished delegate, the Republic of Korea recognizes that sustainable development is a common goal for humanity, and space activities are a key driver for achieving this goal. In this regard, we strongly support the Space Force SDGs initiative and UN Secretary General's report, our common agenda. In particular, we would like to bring attention to the UN Secretary General's Policy Brief 7, the future of the outer space governance for all humanity, announced in preparation for the upcoming Summit of the Future. In alignment with this brief, reaffirming importance of space in a global agenda, we believe that space should be included in the agenda of the summit, and importance of UNUSA and the COPUOS should be reflected in the Pact for the Future. As part of our contribution to achieving the SDGs, Korea has implemented several relevant initiatives both nationally and globally. On a national level, we have established the 4-stage plan for sustainable development. This plan recognizes the importance of Earth observation in monitoring climate changes, managing environmental risk, and assessing progress toward SDG targets. By leveraging advanced Earth observation technologies, we can identify and implement solutions more effectively. The growing importance of Earth observation and geospatial information in decision-making enable us to better understand our current and future positions. On a global level, we are actively engaged in cooperation regarding Earth observation to timely monitor disasters. Since joining the International Charter on Space and Major Disasters in 2011, we have provided approximately 6,500 satellite images to assist in immediate responses to disaster areas, including a series of earthquakes hitting Turkey last year. We also make effort to create innovative space-based solutions to global challenges. In particular, we cooperate with the private companies in planning and carrying out new projects of urban Earth observation. The projects are related to SDG 13 and 14, climate action and life below water, with an aim to expand our participation to solve global issues. Chair, it is clear that strong partnerships in space activities are key to achieve our shared goals, the Sustainable Development Goals. In this regard, Korea is collaborating with international organizations such as Global Earth Observations, which launched the Earth Observation for the Sustainable Development Goals initiative in 2016. Furthermore, we are working closely with domestic Earth observation satellite operators and private companies to utilize Earth observation data. We hope that the achievement from these efforts will contribute significantly to the attainment of Sustainable Development Goals. In closing, the Republic of Korea reiterates its commitment to ensuring a sustainable future based on science and technology. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of the Republic of Korea. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of the Philippines. You have the floor.
Mr. Chair, on behalf of the Philippines, we express our utmost appreciation to you, Chair Sharif Sedki, your vice chairs, and to the dedicated staff at the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs for the excellent preparations made for this year's session. The Philippines is committed in pursuing the Sustainable Development Goals through space science and technology applications. The country notes the benefits in achieving the SDGs, such as mitigating climate change and ensuring food security. Regarding the utilization of space technology for sustainable development at the national level, the Philippine Space Agency conducts the PhilSA Integrated Network for Space-Enabled Actions Towards Sustainability in different provinces across the Philippines. The project engages communities by providing relevant training on the use of satellite images and derived products that support planning, monitoring, and decision-making in their programs, while getting feedback on how these tools can be made more responsive and tailored to local needs. This project is a whole-of-society approach involving the local government units, national government agencies, research and development institutions, and citizens, as well as non-government organizations such as civil society organizations and private companies in providing space-based services. A recent example is the development and distribution of the nationwide mangrove maps, where PhilSA collaborated with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources of the Philippines. Using satellite imagery, remote sensing, and artificial intelligence techniques, PhilSA was able to quickly generate the nationwide map and distribute it to the public for ground validation. Notably, this agile approach contributes to sustainability through active community engagement and by promoting citizen science. Another relevant project of PhilSA is the Pan-Asia Partnership for Geospatial Air Pollution Information Project and the Pandora Asia Network, a project that aims to monitor air quality via Geostationary Environment Monitoring Spectrometer, or GEMS, aboard the GeoCommSat-2B satellite and the network of ground-based remote sensing instruments for data validation called Pandora. This was made possible through our cooperation with the Republic of Korea, and with this, we express our utmost appreciation. The Philippines highlights the importance of the Technical Advisory Mission, TAM, for Space Law for New Space Actors Program of UNUSA that aims to raise awareness on the fundamental principles of international space law, as well as underscores its relevance in the national context. The Philippines will continue to ensure their continuous application in our current and future space activities and international cooperation. We look forward to the next TAM, which will be held in Manila in November 2024. We thank UNUSA and the government of Japan for selecting the Philippines for this technical mission. At the regional level, the Philippines emphasizes that it will continue to cooperate in the existing initiatives on sustainable development in the Asia-Pacific region through our continued participation in the Asia-Pacific Regional Space Agency Forum, APR-SAF, and our full support to the implementation of the Asia-Pacific Plan of Action on Space Applications for Sustainable Development, 2018 to 2030. Likewise, we would like to take this opportunity to announce that the Philippines is hosting the 31st annual meeting of APR-SAF this coming 2025. Mr. Chair, the Philippines underscores its commitment in pursuing the development of its own space capabilities and highlights its willingness to cooperate with the global space community in jointly exploring a safe and sustainable approach in space development. In pursuit of becoming a space-capable nation through satellite development and missions, the Philippines assures this committee that the country is committed to uphold the guidelines for the long-term Sustainability of Outer Space Activities, or the LTS guidelines, and other relevant guidelines set forth by the UN in the management and governance of space activities. Philippine space missions are designed to adhere with space debris mitigation guidelines, which limit the long-term presence of satellites in outer space at the end of their missions. In addition, the Philippines is currently finalizing the country's response protocols concerning rocket launches and other outer space activities, such as space vehicle launches and orbital debris re-entry. Mr. Chair, in conclusion, our delegation assures the committee that the Philippines will continue in pursuing the sustainable development approach in its space science and technology application development and continue to utilize space technology for sustainability on Earth and in outer space. We will continue to abide by existing norms and principles in advancing our common agenda for the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals. We call on other member states to do the same to harness the benefits of space for all nations. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I thank the distinguished representative of the Philippines for his statement. The next speaker on my list is a distinguished representative of Saudi Arabia. You have the floor.
Hi, Mr. Chair. I will do this statement on behalf of Jehan. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Al-Rais al-Muwaqqar, al-A'dha.
Distinguished Chair, esteemed delegates, we gather today in a time where the merging of space and sustainable development hold exceptional promise for humanity. In this key moment, Saudi Arabia stands at the forefront of this endeavor, supporting innovative solutions and building partnerships to harness the potential of space for the betterment of our planet and its people. Mr. Chair, esteemed delegates, Saudi Arabia has embarked on an ambitious journey to enhance its capabilities in space, specifically in the fields of remote sensing and Earth observation. Since the beginning of its space program, Saudi Arabia has significantly advanced its Earth observation capabilities to improve resource management and environmental monitoring. The journey began with the establishment of the Saudi Center for Remote Sensing, which promoted the use of satellite data for applications in agriculture, water resources, and urban planning. Saudi Arabia's initiatives in the utilization of satellites and remote sensing for sustainable development included the following: the study of land treatment and environmental damages using satellite data to enhance emergency preparation and environmental sustainability. The National Center for Vegetation Cover, established by the Saudi Green Initiative to fulfill green objectives, uses remote sensing for accurate biomapping and evaluating ongoing greening initiatives. Third, heavy industries, including construction and the oil and gas sectors, utilize high-resolution Earth observation data for site surveying, construction progress evaluation, and assessing environmental rehabilitation efforts. 4. Sustaining or monitoring the marine environment, including pollution over the busy maritime causeways of the Arabian Gulf and the Red Sea, allowing for early detection of spills and pollution events, facilitating predictions on spread and more efficient mitigation. 5. Monitoring urban development and densification in cities to help manage and plan urban growth effectively, ensuring sustainable development practices. Mr. Chair and esteemed delegates, human capital development is the keystone of any successful space program. The sustainable advancement of space technology and exploration relies heavily on a pipeline of skilled and knowledgeable workforce capable of pushing the boundaries of innovation. Between 2023 and 2024, over 1,300 university students have been trained in space-related fields through the space camps and initiatives, which aim to develop students in STEM through practical challenges in the space industry. This year, the Saudi Space Agency launched the MADAC competition to boost regional contributions to space science among students aged 6 to 18. The competition covers arts, agriculture, and engineering, with more than 80,000 applicants from over 20 countries in the region. Winning submissions will be sent to the International Space Station in late 2024. The scholarship program, the scholarship program in Saudi Arabia offers up to 8 fields of study related to space, including aerospace, engineering, and space sciences. In 2023, the program provided over 200 international academic seats for Saudi students at top universities. This initiative ensures that students are well prepared for the space sector's growth, fostering a high-skilled workforce that will contribute significantly to the advancement of Saudi Arabia's space industry. Furthermore, the upskilling and reskilling of professionals target postgraduates and workers, technicians, who wish to enter the space sector, providing them with practical skills to fill gaps in priority areas. The space sector's Madarik program offers various training programs in the fields of space business, space software and data, and space engineering, aiming to train more than 500 participants. Mr. Chair, esteemed members, entrepreneurship is an important element of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030, and the country is committed to fostering a dynamic space economy driven by innovation and entrepreneurship. Since 2019, the Saudi Space Agency and the General Authority for Small and Medium Enterprises have launched initiatives to support space-related startups and SMEs. These include incubation and acceleration programs offering financial support, mentorship, and access to advanced facilities, enabling entrepreneurs to turn ideas into businesses. The Communications, Space and Technology Commission announced the formation of the Space Entrepreneurship Alliance to achieve growth and sustainability in the sector and to develop a strong foundation to support entrepreneurs in the Kingdom's space sector. The Space Entrepreneurship Bootcamp was launched with a total of 44 participants and delivered 122 training hours. Additionally, the Kingdom supported the NASA Space Apps Hackathon with over 1,300 participants in 19 cities across Saudi Arabia. In conclusion, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia remains committed to advancing its space capabilities and contributing to global efforts in utilizing space for sustainable development. We look forward to continuing our work with the international community to unlock the full potential of space for the benefit of all humanity. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Saudi Arabia for his statement. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of the United States. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United States appreciates the opportunity to highlight the fundamental relationship between student engagement and sustainable development and is leading efforts to inspire interest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM. In addition to its unique space missions, research, and innovations, NASA has made a long-term commitment to building an inclusive, open science community over the next decade. Open source science is a commitment to the open sharing of software, data, and knowledge as early as possible in the scientific process. Chair, in April 2024, NASA was pleased to release the NASA Space Sustainability Strategy, Volume 1, which is a significant milestone in the United States' ongoing efforts to ensure the responsible and sustainable use of space for future generations. This strategy, which uses the UN COPUOS definition for sustainability, will focus on advancing NASA's responsibilities in space sustainability across 4 domains: Earth, Earth's orbit, cislunar space, and deep space. Chair, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, anchored by the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, and associated targets and indicators, provides a universal framework for all countries and stakeholders to use as a blueprint for progress on economic, social, and environmental sustainability. NASA contributes to the SDGs across its mission directorates and is proud to be providing hundreds of examples to the new UN Office for Outer Space Affairs Space Solutions Compendium. This compendium will be a helpful tool that people can use to identify space-based solutions to the SDGs. Chair, space science and technology applications are essential to addressing current and future challenges and realizing the SDGs. It is only through continued and purposeful international collaboration that we can leverage our shared strengths to fully realize the potential impact Earth observations can have in our work. The U.S. Department of State's Strategic Framework for Space Diplomacy explicitly notes the importance of sharing government Earth observation data internationally to support disaster management, climate change mitigation, and adaptation, and economic development. To further advocate and realize these contributions, the United States works with established international forums, such as the Group on Earth Observations, or GEO, which launched a dedicated initiative, Earth Observations for the Sustainable Development Goals. The United States, through NASA, NOAA, and the U.S. Geological Survey, employs Earth observations and smart practices and solutions on the use of this data in planning, tracking, and reporting. This includes GeoNetcast Americas, a user-driven, user-friendly, and low-cost information dissemination service providing global information as a basis for sound decision-making in a number of critical areas such as biodiversity and ecosystem sustainability, disaster resilience, food security, and sustainable agriculture, as well as sustainable urban development, among others. There are currently over 100 GeoNetcast Americas antenna stations throughout the Western Hemisphere. The United States' work for this goal is further enhanced by the Committee on Earth Observation Satellites, or COPUOS, which has developed Earth observation support sheets for 4 SDG indicators to help countries utilize EO data for reporting to the SDG framework. NOAA is providing leadership for SDG Indicator 14.1.1a on coastal eutrophication and marine pollution. Chair NOAA was proud to host the Coordination Group for Meteorological Satellites plenary in Washington, D.C. earlier this month. This group globally coordinates meteorological satellite systems and covers protection of orbital assets, contingency planning, data quality, and accessibility and development of key satellite products for users worldwide. The United States believes that successful sustainable development agenda will require effective partnerships such as these for implementation. Chair, diversity is our strength, and we must continue our collective work to empower women and girls everywhere and to create a space workforce that is more inclusive of the full range of human talent and potential. Our delegation was honored to attend and play a part in the development of the Gender Mainstreaming Toolkit at the UNUSA's Space for Women expert meeting hosted in Canada last fall. We are grateful to the UN Office for Outer Space Affairs and the Government of Canada for hosting this event and drafting the toolkit. We warmly welcome your achievements, the work of UNUSA Space for Women, and the toolkit. Thank you, Chair.
I thank the distinguished representative of the United States for his statement. We will continue and hopefully conclude our consideration of Agenda Item 9, Space and Sustainable Development, on Monday morning. We will now suspend the plenary meeting so that the working group on the long-term sustainability of outer space activities can hold its second meeting. Following the adjournment of the working group meeting, we will resume the plenary and proceed with technical presentations. The meeting is now suspended. Presenters are kindly reminded that technical presentations should be limited to 10 minutes in length. The first presentation on my list is on Smart Lander for Investigating Moon SLIM, results from the moon landing, by the representative of Japan. My apologies. The first presentation on the list is Measuring Gender Barrier Perceptions in the Space Sector of the Republic of Korea, by the representative of the Republic of Korea, which is a pre-recorded statement.
I would like to first of all thank the organizers of COPUOS and the Korea Aerospace Administration for the opportunity to speak in front of our very distinguished audience today. The title of my presentation is Measuring Gender Barrier Perceptions in the Space Sector in Korea, which is an ongoing collaborative study by Dongso University, INWES, and CARI, supported by the Korean government. To address the global agenda of the UN SDGs, and in particular the lack of women talents in the space sector, our study notes that gender gap in the space sector is related to the challenge science and engineering has been facing in attracting diverse talents. Thus, we recognize an important global mission, which is to increase women in STEM and to bring diversity and inclusion in the STEM workplace, which is well understood and accepted worldwide, as the world is striving to make an impact for sustainability. And this is a consideration for reaching a balanced human development in the space sector. However, gender gap persists despite the various efforts made internationally and within each nation, and this leads to the gender gap in the space sector. Women generally tend to be underrepresented in leadership roles, but especially in STEM work. We now know that biases and gender stereotypes are driving women away from STEM careers. However, countries that are more relatively gender equal are not necessarily being able to attract nor retain women in the STEM fields, which is phrased as the gender equality paradox. The second paradox is that although science and engineering are rational fields, engineers and scientists necessarily may not be so. And the sad news from the latest World Economic Forum report is that we are 131 years away from gender parity. Thus, an important consideration for the space sector is to make efforts in providing evidence-based statistics for policy and decision-making to resolve the systemic talent management problem. It is worth noting of the efforts of the EU since 20 years ago to publish the SHE figures and similar efforts made in the US and Korea. Now, let me briefly talk about Korea as an example of the government's effort to support resolve the gender gap in STEM and in the space sector. Let me first walk you through indices that show how Korea has rapidly developed over the years. Since 1990, the UNDP index known as the Human Development Index has been published, and it shows for Korea over a 27% increase. Life expectancy increased more than 12 years. People are better educated and economically making more earnings. And the most recent report shows Korea ranking 19 out of 193 countries. However, despite the rapid economic growth, as mentioned earlier, how has Korea been doing in terms of social impact? Well, the GGI shows a very discouraging set of numbers where since 2006 to 2023, very minimal improvement has been made in closing the gender gap in Korea. Korea has jumped from one of the poorest countries to the most economically powerful country. And so I believe that now more effort should be placed in resolving the problem of gender gap, especially in STEM, which also leads to the space sector. With much effort, there is a slow and steady improvement in the ratio of women in the STEM fields. The underrepresentation of women in STEM in comparison to women in non-STEM is not limited to Korea, however, but a trend found in most countries around the world. And considering the growing demands and opportunities, a more active intervention in improving the current trend is necessary. Thus comes the active intervention in the form of an international collaborative study led by women in STEM organizations like KWSC and INWES. We call this the GIZE survey. The study started in 2014 with the support of the Korean government, publishing reports annually to be shared with the international women in STEM community. Why then GIZE? Because we can no longer try to increase the number of women by the so-called empowering system. Empowering means fixing the women, but this cannot and has not worked. Under the fixed system, that is, unless we fix the system, that is, the environment and the culture of STEM, that is, unless those are fixed, women will continue to be underrepresented. The GIZE index can therefore be a tool for change. In 2023, INWES and KWSC signed an agreement with the Korea Aerospace Research Institute. With the support of CASA, the GIZE study has been adopted for the space sector, and 593 responses were received, and the analysis is ongoing, and thus I will be able to share only some of the results of the work today. The complete result or the report is expected to be out in August this year. The questionnaires are segmented in 6 categories plus one section asking for personal information. As you can see in the slide, the sections are perception of gender barrier, experience of gender barrier, career outlook and need for policy, perception of gender role stereotype, and gender equity, and perception of gender equality for study and research environment, and gender barriers in the space sector. The last one has been added for this space sector study. This slide shows the score of respondents for all questions. The blue bars are responses from women and gray bars from men. And as you can see, women scored higher overall, meaning that women perceive gender barriers more than men. Upon statistical analysis, a significant change with a p-value of less than 0.01 was observed in most questions except H1, which showed a p-value less than 0.01. No statistically significant difference between men and women was observed for F5 and H4, which are, I believe, gender equality will be fully achieved only if women are given opportunities as men, and my family, parents, or friends overall support my space career. It seems that both women and men would like to see more support from their family and friends as they work in the space sectors. When we compare the results with those in STEM fields, women in STEM or women in space and women in STEM seem to differ in 2 aspects. One is that women in space score higher in the overall career outlook and the need for policy, meaning there is a stronger need perceived for these. However, there was a lower score in gender barrier experience for women in STEM, in space rather, meaning that women in the space fields have less direct and indirect experience of gender barriers than women in STEM. As for men in space, we observed no statistically significant difference between their responses and those of men in STEM. We also looked at the age groups, which did not show much significant correlation with the results. Our next step is to evaluate the GISE index as we have done with the study for the STEM group, and 2 indices will be calculated. One, the absolute index for women alone, and second, the comparative index between men and women. And this will be used for comparative studies internationally. To summarize, a CASA-funded GISE project, space project, has been initiated to measure the perception of gender barriers in the space sector in Korea. The GISE of INWES and KWSC study was modified to suit the space sector, and statistically significant gender gap was observed in the overall GISE space study. Women in space reveal stronger need for policy development compared to women in STEM. However, there was less gender barrier experience in the space sector compared to STEM. No significant difference was observed in responses between men in space and men in STEM in Korea. And age group did not correlate to the gender barrier responses. So to conclude, the study shows that a significant gender gap exists in the perception of gender barriers in the space sector in Korea. Science and engineering, together with gender equality, are vital agendas for advancing the space industry. And the difference in gender barrier perceptions between men and women could be a barrier in advancing the space sector. The GISE study can provide evidence for policy development for balancing the human resources in space industry. And GISE can provide comparative indices through international collaborative projects. Revealing numbers can bring culture change through policy making for gender parity in the space sector. Our future work will include the GISE evaluation as an index and also a report and hopefully an international comparative study from next year. We hope that this study will provide a basis for policy development to bring gender parity in the space sectors, which we believe will be crucial in building a better future worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you to the representative of the Republic of Korea. The next presentation on my list is Smart Lander for Investigating Moon, SLIM, results from the moon landing by the representative of Japan. And I apologize previously for the confusion first day on the job. So please, I give the floor to the representative of Japan.
Thank you so much for this great opportunity today. My name is Shinichiro Sakai, and I am the project manager of the SLIM project. On behalf of the SLIM team, I would like to share the achievement of the Smart Lander for Investigating Moon, SLIM, which successfully landed on the Moon on January 20th, becoming the first in the world to achieve precise and pinpoint lunar landing. Next slide, please. SLIM is a project that started in 2016 with two major goals. The first goal is to drastically improve landing accuracy from several kilometers to around 10 kilometers, which is typically for conventional lunar landers, to just 100 meters. This will demonstrate precise, pinpoint lunar landings. The second goal is to achieve this with a small, lightweight lander. Although we will not go into much detail about the result of the weight reduction today, we believe that SLIM has become the world's lightest lunar lander as a result. Next slide, please. Here is an overview of the landing sequence for pinpoint landing. The key point is that during the descent, the probe uses image-based navigation multiple times to determine its precise position and correct its trajectory as it lands. The onboard image-based navigation system identifies craters from images of the lunar surface taken by the onboard camera and matches them with a preloaded crater map to instantly determine the lander's position. This new technology was developed over many years by our team in collaboration with university experts. During the actual descent, a total of 14 image-based navigation checks were conducted, all of which yielded good results, including high accuracy. Next slide, please. This photograph serves as an evidence of achieving pinpoint landing accuracy. The background is an image previously captured by Indian lunar orbiter Chandrayaan-2, and our target site location is defined within this image. Two images, framed in blue, were captured by SLIM while hovering at an altitude of around 50 meters, and these images are overlaid on the Chandrayaan-2 image, aligning with feature points. Since SLIM was positioned at the center of these blue-framed images, we can determine the positional error at that moment by measuring the distance from the preloaded target landing site in the images. Below this altitude, SLIM performs obstacle avoidance maneuvers by design, so the positional error at this point is used to evaluate pinpoint landing accuracy. The result showed an accuracy of around 10 meters or less, much better than our goal of 100 meters, making SLIM the first in the world to achieve pinpoint lunar landing. Next page, please. So while hovering at an altitude of around 50 meters, one of the two main engines experienced a malfunction and lost thrust. The onboard navigation and control software detected this abnormal situation and switched into emergency mode, and as a result, SLIM managed to maintain a low descent speed and successfully made a soft landing. During this time, SLIM gradually drifted eastward, landing approximately 55 meters east of the target site. This image, taken by ISRO's Chandrayaan-2, clearly shows SLIM after landing, allowing us to confirm its position. A similar image was also captured shortly after landing by NASA's LRO. On the other hand, likely due to drifting eastward during landing, the final altitude differed from what was expected. The intended landing posture, as shown in the CG video on the left, was with the solar panels facing the sky. However, data from SLIM indicated that it landed with the solar panels facing west, as shown in the figure on the right. At the landing site, it was morning on the moon with the sun in the east, so no power was generated from the solar panels. Consequently, SLIM powered off approximately 2.5 hours after landing. However, our operation team responded to this situation calmly and completed the download of valuable in-flight data obtained during the descent and landing. Furthermore, we succeeded in preliminary observation using scientific payload before the shutdown. Next slide, please. Okay. On the other hand, the two ultra-small rovers, LEV-1 and LEV-2, which successfully separated from SLIM just before landing, each operated on the lunar surface and accomplished remarkable work. LEV-2, also known by the nickname SORAQ, took several photos on the lunar surface and selected the image that appeared to show SLIM. It then sent this image to LEV-1 via Bluetooth. LEV-1 had a communication system capable of direct transmission to Earth, so it sent the image to Earth. As a result, we were able to see this historic snapshot of SLIM on the lunar surface. It is noteworthy that there was no ground operation involved. Everything was carried out autonomously by LEV-1 and LEV-2. Additionally, LEV-1 weighs about 2.1 kilograms, and LEV-2 is an ultra-small rover weighing only 250 grams. As the sun's direction changed from moon to evening, solar power generation resumed, and communication with Earth was re-established on January 28th. Afterward, the science observation team used onboard multiband spectral camera to conduct 10-band spectroscopic observation on 10 rocks, more than initially planned. They found large olivine in the rock, which is believed to have originated from the moon's deeper layers. The team is currently analyzing the data to obtain important clues to understand the origin of the moon. As a fun fact, each rock was affectionately named after a dog bred by science team. For instance, a large rock was dubbed St. Bernard, while a smaller one was named Poodle. To be candid, it was the first time I heard conversation like, "All right, let's start with Beagle today, then switch to Toy Poodle," amidst the tension of the control room. Furthermore, SLIM has continued to operate after surviving 3 lunar nights. The lunar night is long and extremely cold, and the daytime temperatures are very high. Despite not being designed to withstand such harsh conditions, SLIM has managed to survive 3 lunar nights. This may provide us with some valuable insight into how to endure the lunar nights. SLIM landed near the crater named Shiori. It is a sloped area with many rocks and boulders. Although this location is ideal for observation using the multiband spectral camera, it is, frankly, a dangerous place to land. However, we have demonstrated that with pinpoint landing technology, it is possible to land even in such challenging location. A new door has opened, allowing us to reach places that were previously inaccessible. This is the significance of SLIM's achievement. Speaking of openness, I would like to mention that SLIM has been developed with a highly open approach. This includes transparency in information, planetary protection, legality, and relationship with various international organizations. During the descent and landing, we broadcast live on the internet, attracting a large audience from Japan and around the world. The live broadcast featured the same real-time data we were monitoring in the control room. The scientific data obtained from multiband spectral camera is also planned to be released in the future. Next slide, please. It is my great pleasure to introduce SLEAM as an example of peaceful use of lunar and planetary exploration. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you for your presentation. The third presentation on my list is on India's science missions Chandrayaan-3 and Aditya L1 by the representative of India.
Thanks, Chair, for this opportunity given to present a brief overview of India's recent science missions, Lunar Mission Chandrayaan-3 and the Solar Mission Aditya L1. Both these missions have caught attention of the global space community and have also been widely acknowledged, recognized, and acclaimed. Both these lunar and solar missions have a deeper scientific connection in terms of comparative planetology and planetary space weather. The Indian Lunar Exploration Program started in 2008 with the launch of Chandrayaan-1, wherein an orbiter was placed around the moon. It also carried a moon impact probe, which was deliberately released from the orbiter to ballistically hard land on the moon. Chandrayaan-2 was launched in 2019. It had the orbiter, lander, and a rover. With Chandrayaan-2, we aspired to soft land on the moon, though we came very near, but we could not accomplish the soft landing fully. However, the orbiter of Chandrayaan-2 is still in orbit and providing valuable science data for the past 5 years. With Chandrayaan-3, on August 23, 2023, India demonstrated safe and soft landing of the lander at the southern higher latitude of the moon and deployment of rover on the lunar surface. Next. Chandrayaan-1 was an excellent example of international cooperation, and it carried 6 payloads of other space agencies. The scientific results of Chandrayaan-1 has enriched the science and particularly lunar science community with the discoveries of hydroxyl molecules on the lunar surface, indicating the hydration is there on the moon. It also did mineralogical and chemical mapping of the lunar surface and the interaction of solar wind with the lunar regolith. With Chandrayaan-2 was launched on board LVM-3 in 2019, and it had orbiter, lander, and a rover. It carried 8 payloads, including a highest resolution imaging camera, which provided 25 centimeters of the moon images, which were also shared with other space agencies. It also had a dual frequency synthetic aperture radar for full polarimetric measurements of the permanently shadowed region of the moon. With Chandrayaan-2, as I told, though we aspired to soft land on the moon, but we could not accomplish the soft landing. The large dispersions were observed during the camera coasting phase and anonymous implementation of the thrust control logic. So because of that, during the fine braking phase, the error caused the system to gain the velocity and lose the altitude, so which led to hard landing on the moon. Next. However, as I told, the Chandrayaan-2 orbiter is still in the orbit providing science data and has led to several discoveries to its credit, which include the unambiguous detection of the lunar water ice, the global mapping of the lunar exospheric Argon-40, and the first ever global mapping of the lunar sodium, including the mapping of moon at the spatial resolution of 25 centimeters. You can see those high resolution images, and also the L-band synthetic aperture radar, which are basically revealing the craters which are hidden below the surface. Next. The lessons learned from Chandrayaan-2 have acted as a configuration driver for the Chandrayaan-3, and the large number of improvements were carried out in Chandrayaan-3 with respect to building the robustness in the lander, large number of ground tests and simulations, meticulous on-orbit testing, and assessment of the margins and the deviations. As I told, the improvements of the sensors were done for the navigation, guidance, and control. The lander legs were ruggedized, and also tests were carried out to handle even the landing on the slopes. The increased robustness was built to handle the wider dispersions. Autopilot was redesigned for real-time retargeting and salvage guidance in case of emergency landing. Software and hardware loop simulations were carried out to validate the performance under different test configurations, including we have also built an artificial landing site on the Earth. Chandrayaan-3 was launched on board LVM-3 on 14th of July 2023, and after 5 earthbound maneuvers, the lunar orbit insertion was carried out on 5th of August, followed by a lander separation on 17th August 2023. We received excellent cooperation from ESA and NASA for deep space communication and lunar transfer trajectory. For the soft landing of the lander, the power descent, as you are seeing in the graph, the power descent was initiated at 30-kilometer altitude, and all phases thereafter, like the rough braking phase, the attitude hold phase, and fine braking phase, were executed as planned with precision, including the hovering stage. Though we had built sufficient margins and all contingency measures were in place, but the lander soft landed at the predefined location with the desired velocity without any deviations. So we achieved the soft landing on the moon on 23rd of August 2023 at 1804 IST, and with this, India became the 4th country to have soft landed on the moon and the 1st country to have soft landed in the higher lunar latitude. These are some of the initial first-cut scientific outcomes from Chandrayaan-3. We had the LIBS payload, which has first-ever detection of sulfur on the lunar regolith, along with the trace constituents like aluminium, calcium, iron, chromium, and titanium. We had a chest payload on the lander, which has first-ever temperature profile of the lunar regolith up to 10 centimeters, and it has shown the good thermal insulating properties of the lunar soil, which will be very helpful for the future establishments on the moon. Similarly, we had the first ever characterization of the near surface lunar plasma at higher lunar latitude. Next. Next one was Aditya L1 mission. This was the first Indian dedicated mission to study the sun, which was launched on 2nd of September 2023, and it had successful hello orbit insertion on 6th January 2024. The mission has the capabilities to study the solar radiation, solar wind, as well as the interplanetary magnetic field called IMF. There were a large number of challenges in realization of Aditya L1, and we have to have the launch vehicle capacity, the launch window constraints, and the fuel minimization during the earthbound maneuvers to precisely put the spacecraft in the L1 trajectory. The requirement was of the stringent pointing accuracy of 15 arcsecond. So we require very precise pointing to observe and study the corona of sun. We also need to harness, new harness routing was developed basically to magnetically clean the spacecraft so that we don't have any interference while measuring the Earth's magnetic field. So Aditya L1 is an observatory class of spacecraft, and it had equipped with the 4 remote sensing and 3 in situ observation payloads for conducting stereoscopic studies of the solar corona, plasma, and the magnetic field. Next. These are some of the recent eruptive events from the sun, which occurred on 11th of May 2024 due to the active region AR 13664. You can see the figure A depicts the sun image in magnesium second K line filter taken from the suit and on Aditya L1. And the second on the right side, if you see, we see the Welk observation at 5303 Armstrong, which have captured the dynamic behavior of the solar corona. Next. Similarly, the X-ray emission signatures of the solar flares have been captured by Aditya L1 at low and high energy X-rays. So these are depicted in these three figures, C, D, E, and F. Next. So this is the future plan of Indian Space Research Organization for our future Chandrayaan mission, Chandrayaan 4, which is going to be the sample return from the moon, which is under configuration. We will have the two modules launched separately on the two launch vehicles, and it will collect the samples from the lunar surface with the robotic arm and bring those samples back to Earth. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. The fourth presentation on my list is on non-governmental entity support for public-private sector data sharing by the representative of the United Kingdom. Please.
Thank you, Chair. Delegates. My name is Alessandro Caccioni, and as a representative of the Space Data Association, I'm honored to be given the opportunity to present to you today. Next slide. Our experience confirms that effective, timely data sharing is essential to promote the long-term sustainability of outer space. We offer a perspective on how the Space Data Association, SDA, a non-governmental entity, has addressed key legal and operational risks of data sharing. We will also note how the NGEs can, working using a public-private partnership model, support critical long-term space sustainability guidelines. Next slide, please. Sharing data is an essential for long-term space sustainability and the cornerstones to establishing mechanisms for space traffic coordination. Without shared information, avoiding space hazards and resulting conjunction becomes difficult, leading to a high probability of collisions and creation of long-lived hazardous space debris. As space becomes more highly used and perhaps contested, means for anomaly and dispute resolution require access to information by multiple parties. Without data sharing, including planned maneuvers, accurately predicting orbital states becomes unfeasible. Information sharing between sensors and space operators is required to maintain space surveillance, update space catalogs, retain positive control of spacecraft, and even protect human life in space. Next slide, please. However, many see substantial legal and operational risks in freely sharing data. I'm going to spend much of this presentation on this topic, given the role of the legal subcommittee. Tensions arise between data owners and third parties like data custodians. Data owners, such as satellite operators, perceive risks that custodians of third parties may use data for unintended or unwarranted purposes. Data may be seen as unfit for purpose, raising the risk of legal liability arising from third-party use or reliance on data. Quality of data can be an issue. What assurances can there be that critical data will be timely available or valid for a given purpose? Disclosure to promote space flight safety is a noble goal. However, operators ask, what if disclosure of information reveals negligence or other potential culpability under the Outer Space Treaty, the Reliability Convention, or in the case of non-governmental operators, risk their authorization from a state? These risks, which are real, often suggest limited information sharing is a better policy, albeit in the short term. Public disclosure of some information, even including operational points of contact, creates perception an acceptable level of risk and thus is non-starter. Space offers opportunities and is highly competitive. While the community of technical space operations professionals remain generally aligned to promote stability, safety, and avoid operational surprise, this is not true, particularly for NGE operators, for the highly competitive satellite operators themselves, who value autonomy, privacy, and freedom of action. Bringing these competitors together requires an approach that anticipates disputes and offers effective resolution mechanisms. Are these challenges insurmountable? Our answer is no. We found ways to address these concerns and enable effective, secure data sharing. Next slide. I want to share how our NGE, the SDA, has addressed these challenges since our founding in 2009 and how we might further advance the LTSS guidelines. In brief, the SDA is a not-for-profit entity based in the Isle of Man that has a public and private satellite operator members with focus on space safety. SDA members collaborate and are required to contribute and pool operational data, including points of contact, to enable better conjunction assessment and space traffic coordination to mitigate the risk of satellite operators and preserve the space environment. The SDA Isle of Man-based legal structure and binding legal agreement enable secure pooling of operational data and ensures that these data are used exclusively for the intended purpose. Modern cybersecurity approaches permit the SDA Space Data Center to provide service securely. Next slide. I'll note here a snapshot of the participants of SDA, which you'll see include public governmental, EUMETSAT, NASA, NOAA, and non-governmental satellite operators. We're open to all and in discussion with several operators now. The LTS Guideline C4 noted that non-governmental entities can play important roles, promoting practical measures to enhance space sustainability, including by bringing stakeholders together. That's what we do at the SDA, and you're most welcome to join us. Next slide. At the SDA, we establish a legal and operational structure to create shared incentives to collaborate while respecting the legitimate security, operational and legal concerns of our satellite operator participants. Everyone sees the benefits of information sharing. How do we address the risk? First of all, one must insist on technical excellence. We establish cybersecurity of information system using the highest level of care. Most importantly for this committee is that SDA requires a binding legal agreement of all operators. This agreement, based on the Isle of Man jurisdiction and law, sets out a framework to address these concerns. Use of any data or SDA information product is limited by agreement to specific enumerated permitted use. A small subset of potential uses is identified as prohibited uses. Any uses that are not permitted are automatically prohibited. Use for space flight safety is always permitted. Derivative use or retransmission to others without the consent of the satellite operator's data owner is not allowed. Importantly, SDA members legally agree to contribute timely and accurate flight safety data, including satellite location, points of contact, and planned maneuvers. This dynamic contribution ensures data remains relevant and actionable. So what happens if an SDA member violates this agreement? As a private entity, we use financial incentives, that is, financial legal liability in the case where agreements are violated. Under our agreement, the financial liability is unlimited and enforceable if the transgression is deliberate. Enforcement under Isle of Man law is somewhat unusual, in that an aggrieved party, such as one SDA member, may bring a direct cause of action against another member, even though there is no direct contract between the two parties. The association itself need not be part of the legal proceedings. This concept of third-party beneficiary rights is somewhat unusual, but for our purposes it increases confidence and allows satellite operators to share data while effectively mitigating the risks of doing so. Finally, I'm glad to point out that we've had no cases where misuse of data has been alleged. We've earned our praise as trusted third party. Next slide. In closing, NGOs like the SDA offer immediate, concrete and proven platform for states and satellite operators to promote the LTSS guidelines. We urge states, consistent with the LTSS guidelines C4, to raise awareness of space activities and to promote the contributions of non-governmental entities that will enhance the long-term sustainability of other space activities, and to take advantage of NGO's potential to promote practical measures to enhance space sustainability, including bringing stakeholders together. We can deliver practical measures, including means to implement the LTSS guideline B1 by securely sharing operators' contact and information on space objects and orbital events. As we described during the most recent technical subcommittee meeting, the SDA's technical measure also address guidelines B2, B3, and B4. SDA encourages UN member states to take action to implement the LTS guidelines B1, B2, B3, and B4 by requiring satellite operator data sharing for space safety. We often offer one proven means of doing so. The SDA looks forward to collaborating with all parties to achieve the objective of the legal subcommittee and to make progress towards establishing the next critical phase of our shared work in ensuring continued, safe and responsible use of outer space to the benefit of humankind. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. The fifth presentation on my list is on overview of Brazil's space resources plans, activities and interests by the representative of Brazil.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Brazilian Space Agency, AEB, it is my honor to present an overview of Brazil's space resources plans, activities, and interests. AEB was established in 1994. The purposes of our National Program for Space Activities, PNAE, 2022-2031, is to meet the needs of society with the highest possible levels of efficacy, effectiveness, and efficiency that derives from space systems and impacts communication, logistics, urban mobility, civil defense, mining, environment, health, education, and science sectors. Our PNAE is available for download in a compact English version. In June 2021, Brazil has signed the Artemis Accords to explore the moon exclusively for peaceful purposes and in accordance with international law. As plans, we decided to start with science and technology that are achievable within our expertise and capabilities. One of the projects being developed is in the scope of Artemis is Selenita by the Aeronautics Institute of Technology, ITA, with the support of AEB, which has the objective of understanding the space weather phenomena. As activities, we have identified opportunities in which our know-how can have a meaningful impact within NASA's Moon to Mars objectives. Additionally, we invited new partners to cooperate in the project, such as Embrapa, a Brazilian state-owned research corporation dedicated to advancing agriculture technologies and knowledge. The AEB Embrapa project Space Farming aimed to advance the development of a crop production system for use in challenging space environments that will ultimately help agricultural research on Earth. The purpose is to utilize space to enhance the genetic variability of cultivars. The space farming project is divided in 3 phases. First, it will study the adaptation of cultivars for growth in aeroponic and hydroponic systems, methods of growing plants without soil, in plant growth chambers. It will search for traits such as earliness, drought tolerance, energy efficiency, yield, nutrition, and food quality, as well as ionizing radiation tolerance. It will simulate plant growth in space, evaluating requirements likely found in moon shelters. Second, it will evaluate selected plants in a space environment to finally use the selected genotypes in space shelters. We truly believe space farming represents an avenue for cooperation in the use and exploration of outer space for peaceful purposes. As interests, similarly to how we engaged with Embrapa, we aim to approach the Brazilian mining sector. Brazil is a mining sector global powerhouse, long occupying a place among the top 5 mineral producers in the world and possessing proven reserves of several strategic commodities. It is the world's top producer of niobium. As final remarks, I would like to emphasize that AEB has been formulating strategies to engage Brazil in the space exploration, adopting the perspective of an emerging space nation. We are already developing a space weather lunar mission, Selenita, for the characterization of the space environment. Given that there exists a well-established knowledge base in agriculture in Brazil, we are pursuing space farming activities and prospecting ways to engage the Brazilian mining sector. There is a lot of opportunities in emerging space nations for international collaboration in this sector. In conclusion, I'd like to invite you to the 2024 International Workshop on Space Resources, co-organized by AEB and the Secure World Foundation, is sponsored by the Innovation Technological Park PIT, to be held at PIT in São José dos Campos, Brazil, on the 21st and 22nd of November. We see it as an opportunity for opening up channels of communications and for exchanging knowledge in the space resources domain. I'd like to thank my colleague Rodrigo Leonardi, responsible for the Space Forming project at AEB, for assisting me with the slides. We will be glad to be in contact with you. For your attention, I thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Thank you. The sixth presentation on my list is on protecting the dark and quiet sky is our joint responsibility. But have you ever wondered what's your connection to the Big Bang? By the observer for the International Astronomical Union, IAU, this presentation is pre-recorded.
The global issue of protecting the dark and quiet sky from interference by artificial sources, such as artificial light at night, and the proliferation of large satellite constellations has sparked significant discussion at the UN level and across social media. In particular, the STC and COPUOS have been lively in discussing how to reach a fair compromise between operating large satellite constellations and preserving a dark and quiet sky for science and humanity. This issue is not just about preserving the vision of the starry sky as a world cultural heritage or ensuring free access to cosmos data for professional astronomy. It is about our collective responsibility to safeguard a natural resource, the dark and quiet sky, that is not only a part of our heritage, but also crucial for our understanding of the universe. But are those motivations only limited to cultural heritage and to the science of astronomy? Have you ever reflected, not as a distinguished COPUOS delegate, but at your personal level, why should you care about the sky? To answer these questions, we should realize that astronomy's final objective is not just astrophysics, but the grand task of constructing a rational model of the entire reality. Indeed, modern cosmology poses important challenges to philosophy and theology. Therefore, it profoundly probes our consciousness and relationship with the cosmos. We are all affected. In order to answer this question, we should take a brief historical detour. The quest of the origin and nature of the universe is as ancient as humanity and continues to challenge us. The man of the cave was asking himself, where the hell did all come from? And the very same question is asked by modern scientists using their sophisticated instruments. In different epochs, man tried to answer the question. In ancient times, the mythical narrative was used, as, for example, in the Gilgamesh saga, 3rd millennium BC, in the poem Enuma Elish, 2nd millennium BC, and of course in the Bible Bereshit book in the 6th or 5th century BC. These archaic attempts should not be underestimated today because the mythical narration has universal value and can be reinterpreted in every epoch. The Greek philosophers, starting in the 5th century BC, attempted a rational explanation, culminating with the Ptolemaic cosmological model of the 2nd century AD. From the anthropological point of view, it was a perfect cosmology because man was at the very center of the cosmos. In a sense, the cosmos was built for man, and man was its master. This beautiful and satisfactory cosmology, in which philosophy, science, theology, and art live together in harmonic equilibrium, beautifully depicted in the Divina Commedia by Dante Alighieri, lasted for about 2 millennia, until Galileo Galilei, in the crucial nights of 1609-1610, using his cannocchiale, destroyed forever the crystalline spheres of the Aristotelian Ptolemaic cosmology. While a new window on an ever vaster and more complex universe was open, man was left bereft of an understandable cosmology. Consequently, the relationship between man and the cosmos was broken, and humanity was again dismayed in front of the vastness of the cosmos. How nature, wise and frugal, could commit such disproportions with superfluous hands so many nobler bodies to create, wrote the British poet John Milton in his poem Paradise Lost. A glimmer of hope surged at the beginning of the 20th century with the revolution represented by the general relativity of Albert Einstein, and with the publication in 1927 of a seminal paper by the Belgian priest and cosmologist Georges Lemaitre. He applied the equation of the general relativity to the entire universe and found the unexpected and extraordinary conclusion that the cosmos cannot be static, but it must expand or contract. Soon after, this surprising result was confirmed by the observation of the American astronomer Edwin Hubble, which showed that all galaxies were receding from the observer with an apparent velocity proportional to their distance, a clear experimental proof of an expanding universe. The following few decades, marked by the fundamental and unique contribution of observation by space instruments, witnessed the construction of modern cosmology that finally offers a comprehensible cosmos model. The most significant characteristics of the cosmos is its holistic evolutionary history that unrolled along a time path of 13.8 billion years. The universe went through very different physical phases, each characterized by an unpredictable increase of its complexity, but all connected each other by subtle fil rouge that testimonies the fundamentally holistic nature of this evolution. At the tip of this evolution, consciousness emerged, at least in one pale blue dot of this immensity, but more and more plausibly everywhere in the universe. Pause for a moment to reflect on our own existence, material and spiritual. It is not just a part of, but strongly related to all the phases of cosmic evolution. Relationships are becoming more essential than entities. Therefore, the ancient, sharp Cartesian distinction between matter and spirit, consciousness, is being challenged by in the context of a holistic evolution. We discover ourselves as the consciousness of the cosmos, capable of deciphering its mysterious history and relating our earthly existence to the history of the entire universe. By cultivating a deep connection with every phase of cosmic evolution, with every marvel that springs forth, and most importantly, with every other earthly consciousness, we may find that this cosmic love has the power to elevate our smallness to the status of co-creator of the universe, liberating us from the confines of space and time. This new comprehension of the cosmos that has been made known to us by relentless observation of the starry sky invests us, all of us, with tremendous responsibility in front of the entire universe. Hopefully, this vision will foster universal and peaceful collaboration, eliminating all barriers and local quarrels that, seen from the cosmic majesty, lose any raison d'être. This is why we all must protect our sky and, most importantly, raise our eyes, observe it, and meditate on our relation to it. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. I will shortly adjourn this meeting. Before doing so, I would like to inform delegates of our schedule of work for Monday morning. We will meet promptly at 10 a.m. We will reopen our consideration of Agenda Item 2, adoption of the agenda. We will continue our consideration of Agenda Item 5, general exchange of views. We will continue and hopefully conclude our consideration of Agenda Item 9, space and sustainable development. Time permitting, we will begin our consideration of Agenda Item 10, spin-off benefits of space technology, review of current status. We will then turn to proceed with technical presentations. There are 6 technical presentations scheduled for Monday morning. Delegates are reminded that the full schedule of technical presentations is available on the session's webpage. This evening, there will be a side event entitled Sustainability of Space Activities, a Perspective from the French Space Industry, organized by France, with refreshments from 6:15 to 8 p.m. in the Mozart Room. Furthermore, on Saturday, there would be a joint side event with lunch entitled 4th Interregional Space Policy Dialogue between Asia Pacific and Europe, exploring new funding pathways for the global space economy, co-organized by Asia Pacific Regional Space Agency Forum and European Space Policy Institute. It will take place from 9:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the SP premises. On Monday morning, a side event entitled TCTB, Process and Principles for Cooperative Remediation of Massive Derelict, will be co-organized by the 3-country trusted broker from 9 to 10 a.m. in room MOE 100. Delegates are reminded that the full schedule of side events is available on the session's webpage. Furthermore, I would like to inform delegates that on Monday morning, informal consultations are held by the Russian Federation on the working paper entitled The Use of Mega Constellations for Commercial/Civilian Spacecrafts and Systems for Undeclared Purposes, CRP-20, from 9 to 10 a.m. in room M2. Distinguished delegates, are there any questions or comments on this proposed schedule? I see none. I wish everyone a pleasant weekend. The meeting is adjourned until 10 a.m. on Monday morning.